Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 451 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and I am joined by Emily. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Ben. I'm feeling fresh, full of energy. I'm not tired. I'm not feeling a bit bleary-eyed. I've got a clear head. How are you?
Let's not talk about that, Emily. That's very unfair of you to start the podcast like that. No, we as a collective, we went out for a bit of a planning meeting last night for the Stacey West, and it descended into a bit of chaos at a certain stage of the evening. Admittedly, that stage of the evening was after Emily had gone. So I think
Yes.
I think you're probably the responsible one of the group now. We're gonna put that hat on you now as the responsible adult of the group.
Well, I made notes in this as part of this planning meeting, whilst everyone else was getting the beers in. I did take it upon myself to make some notes. But no, I do empathise because yesterday I had a little bit of a hangover myself, so I was off the booze for our planning meeting. So yeah, you were all on the beers and I was just on Pepsi Max and taking notes for something very exciting coming up.
Yes,
everybody.
absolutely.
My dad said to me yesterday when I had my hangover, it's your own fault and I've got no sympathy. So there we go.
Yeah, it was self-inflicted, but it was very good fun. I think Chris, Charlie, Stu, and myself ended up in home, and yeah, no, not in home. Sorry, in Stack. We ended up in Stack, and I'm not going to get those two mixed up. Yeah, we ended up in Stack, and it was a very fun evening. And there is a clip on our Discord of Stu and Chris and Charlie singing along to Sweet Caroline with inflatable microphones. But yeah, and my wife has just said, yeah, my wife has just said, is there no mention of buffalo sauce? No, there is not, because all I'm going to say is it's a very good job that the club currently have 50% off on all home shirts because, my home shirt got quite heavily stained last night with buffalo sauce. But there we go.
It was what else of the evening.
Absolutely. What have we been up to? How have things been? Before the big game.
Yeah. It's been a while since I feel like I've been on the pod. It's definitely been a while since we've done a Bemily special. But also interestingly, I've the last time that I went to Home nightclub was when we won the National League, and I went in and all the players were in there. So maybe that's a nice little. Not you didn't actually go to Home, but just mentioning it, perhaps a nice little bit of synergy. No, I've been good. Eagle-eyed viewers may notice I have a new picture on my wall, which is Nathan Arnold taking the ball round the keeper when we beat Ipswich in the FA Cup. And that was a gift from a very good friend of mine and an ex-colleague that I haven't actually seen in the 2 years since I left the job. But that was my leaving gift from him to me, which he finally was able to give me last week. He's an Ipswich fan, so there was always a nice little bit of banter between us about that FA Cup run. But he got me that picture, messaged Nathan Arnold on Instagram, asked him to sign it, sent it to him, got him to sign it. He sent it back, and then he framed it and gave it to me. So a lovely present that now takes pride of place. And what a nice little thing from Nathan Arnold to take it and sign it and send it back as well.
Absolutely. That's really nice. I love that. That's great fun. Yeah.
Well, you've had a good week. You were very excited on the last podcast about all the things that were coming up. What can you tell us?
Emily, I've had the best of weeks. Because, as I said on Wednesday's pod, Scrubs came back on Thursday, and it's very good. And then Feeder released their first live album on Friday, and that's very good. And then on Thursday, I took Rachel for a lovely birthday meal in a very posh restaurant, and we went up and we sat down and had a quick look around, and Rach went, "Have you seen that?" I was like, "Seen what?" And then all of a sudden just heard out of the out of the corner of the restaurant, just "Happy birthday" in a sort of familiar voice, and then turned round, and it was Jez and Michael, and they were just sat in the corner of the restaurant. It turned out that Jez had listened to the podcast and knew that it was Rachel's birthday. We have very nice people working at our football club. That's all I'm going to say. So very enjoyable week. Capped off with a game of football that probably is a little bit. It was a bit bonkers, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. At least the last 25 minutes were. But going into it, lineup came through, same starting 11 again. Obviously still missing Freddie Draper at the minute. But I think we probably expected that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did a unchanged 11. I think the Draper situation's a strange one, isn't it? The club have said that they're assessing it very regularly to see how he is. So I can't read into that whether that's good or bad at all. I really don't know. But obviously, Draper's played such a big part this season. He's just been such an incredible player for us. And I don't think we have a like-for-like replacement for Fred in the team. So it's always going to be a blow when he's not available. But yeah, unchanged. I think that was expected. And looking at our starting 11, me and my dad were chatting in the car on the way to the game about how consistent the team feels and how players have had consistent and long runs of games. Even when Rico Hackett, has been out through injuries, little kind of niggles here and there, the spells that he has had in the team have been longer. And for example, with Tom Bayliss getting injured and Ivan coming in, he has now had a long run as well. So we talked about this in the car. And then this morning I thought, I'm going to look into that with some stats. So early doors, I'm coming out with stats. And people who like Chris and his stats, I have to apologise because I'm a poor man's Chris Lamming. I'm trying my best, but I'm not at that kind of level. But I had a look at minutes that players have played so far this season versus last season. And what I could tell from the data available is that player minutes this season are much more concentrated on a core group. There's also a bigger gap in the number of minutes from players within that core group and then the rest of the squad. So there's a bigger drop off between how many minutes they've played and then a lot smaller numbers of minutes for those other players. And there's lots more players with really low minutes this season as well, which again just goes to show that, the core group are playing the majority of our minutes and then those other players are just coming in off the bench. We know that I'll come on to players coming off the bench as well because I have some more stats on that for you to look forward to. And then you look at last season's data as well, and there was a lot of players with kind of middling numbers, I would say, for number of minutes played. So yeah, me and my dad were having a chat about it. It feels a lot more consistent. And then I looked at the numbers and it is. So there we go. A nice demonstration of the eye test and the stats are lining up. But I think that's key. I think that's been really key this season is that we have just had a really core group. And even when there have been injuries and people have had to dip out the squad and replacements have come in for them, they've then had long spells, like I've mentioned, Ivan. So yeah, I think that consistency is really key. And given the results this season, I think it's absolutely paying off to have that kind of core in the squad.
Yeah, 100%. And it's quite evident, isn't it, that we've said it before that if you have a consistent back line, your keeper's probably going to be feeling a bit more confident because he knows exactly what's in front of him. And the fact that we seemingly had that all season, I think Tom Hamer and Adam Jackson, at some point, they felt like they were interchangeable. But now we've got, we do have a very solid, defensive unit. And then that just bleeds through the whole team. And, like you say, Conor McGrandles and Tom Bayliss being that core in the middle, and then Tom Bayliss goes out for a little bit with an injury, and then Ivan Bartholomew comes in. You just think, oh, yeah, that's all right. We've got good parts that can be, replaced with other good parts. It just felt, it just feels really strong at the minute. And I do agree with you about Freddie Draper as well, in that we don't have a direct like-for-like replacement. But I think we do, but not in one player, if that makes sense. Like, we've got bits of what Freddie does coming in from other players. Like House can do the more physical side of things. Street is probably, he's got probably arguably a better finisher than Fred is, and he's got a little bit more pace as well. And it's just, there are multiple players that can do what Freddie does, but in terms of, a single person, we are, I think it's probably fair to say that we're missing him at the moment. And you found a reason for that, didn't you, Emily? You found a reason as to why Freddie is out at the minute, because it's the curse of the calendar.
I was thinking, what the hell? What have I done? Didn't bump into him in Stack, did we? The curse of the calendar. I call it. I have the Lincoln City Club calendar, and it always amuses me when I turn it over, and there's normally, I think I turned it over one month and it was JJ McKiernan, and I just thought, what? Who? I've forgotten he'd existed. But I turned over March to page March, and it was Freddie, and I just thought, it's the curse of the calendar. It is. I don't want to tell you who's next month, because
you did tell us earlier.
Real curse.
Yeah, you did tell us earlier, and it's. I'm hoping that like the Manager of the Month curse, it doesn't actually exist.
Yes. Yeah. But to go back, sorry, I'm going to jump to something I've got at the end of my notes.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of summarising, but at the beginning. But I think it's relevant, because talking about Freddie and how much we feel like we will miss him, and for me, it's about his physical presence. I think we miss. I think when we played Mansfield, I think Rob Street had a decent game, but he struggled against their big centre halves to hold the ball up, to win those kind of headers against those kind of big players. And I just thought Fred would just be eating them up all day long. He knows how strong he is. He's confident in bullying these centre halves. He said it himself. So I think that's what we thought we were going to miss. But yesterday, I gave Rob Street my man of the match, and a few of us on the podcast did as well, which you can see on our Instagram. But I gave it to Rob Street because I thought that whilst he isn't a like-for-like replacement for Fred, I thought he put in a really battling physical performance yesterday. And again, had a look at the stats, and he actually contested the most duels in the game yesterday, and he was the joint top for duels won in the entire game. So I think that just stands out as, we know we're going to miss Fred, we know we're going to miss his physical presence, but Rob Street came in yesterday and won the most duels on the pitch. So he's putting in a physical performance that we thought we were going to miss. So I appreciate that's kind of summarising before we've gone through the game, but I thought it was worth mentioning now.
No, it's absolutely valid. And yeah, I mean, I again, not to jump ahead, I gave my man of the match to Sonny Bradley. I thought he was just an absolute unit again, all game. But it was another game where you could have chosen any one of, I think, 6 players that would have, happily been given man of the match yesterday. But yeah, going into the game, I thought we opened pretty well yesterday. I thought it was, not kind of flying out the traps like we have done in some games, but at the same time, not also, we weren't being penned in and pinned back by Blackpool from minute one. I think it just seemed like a pretty decent contest for the first sort of 20 minutes or so. I think Ivan looking to score another absolute worldie was a moment. I think it was even further out from his last one, and it was also off to the side as well. It just goes a little bit high, wide, and handsome. And then Ben House had a couple of efforts as well. I think there was one that forced a save after a really, really good run by Jack Moylan. Moylan picks up the ball in his own half and basically drives to the edge of the box and gets it out to Ben House, who forces a decent save from Peacock Farrell. It was just, you look at it, you go, okay, I can see what we're trying to do. But I think Blackpool were decent. They were decent in spells throughout that first half. At times, a mate of mine texted me who couldn't make the game yesterday, and he said, "How are we looking?" And I said, honestly, I think we look a little bit nervy. And I don't know if I was the only one that thought that, but until we got the first goal, I just thought that the nerves needed to settle a little bit. And it just felt, I don't know, it felt a little bit on edge, whether that was just me being on edge because I wanted us to win the game, or whether it was, that was what was being projected. I'm not sure. How did you feel it? How did you see it?
Yeah, so I thought the opening 10, 15 minutes or so, I think we probably had the better of it. I don't think it was a landslide kind of, we were absolutely dominant all over them. Those very typical fast starts that we know from a Lincoln City team. It wasn't quite that, but I didn't really feel too nervous. I felt quite confident yesterday, and I don't know whether that's, again, whether I'm just picking that up from the squad as opposed to the nerves. But I thought, they had a handful of corners, didn't they, early on? But we're so good at defending from set pieces. Again, I didn't think they really caused too much of a threat. And the way that we were playing, there was some really lovely kind of little intricate quick passing in those kind of opening 10, 15 minutes, which I just thought we looked really strong, kind of just moving the ball around. And the way that Blackpool had set up was that their two central midfield players, I think it was Honeyman and Bowler, they were both playing sort of like two number 8s. They were quite high and quite wide, which left a lot of space in the middle of the park, which you mentioned Ben House having a shot that was really well saved by Peacock Farrell. But that was Jack Moylan just being able to run straight down the middle of the pitch within that space before playing the ball to House and him having a chance on goal. And then he had another one, didn't he, that was a little bit scuffed. A scuffed effort. It didn't really drop for him. I
think it hit him more than I think it hit him more than he was like going for it. But apparently it still counted as a shot for his numbers, and by a certain point, if you buy into it, he was on 1.1 xG according to Gary before we'd put the ball in the back of the net. So
yeah. But no, I thought I guess my kind of feelings on it were probably slightly different to yours. I don't think Blackpool, I don't think we were kind of walking all over them and totally dominating them. But at the same time, I didn't feel like they had much real threat or much real kind of penetration into our area, shall we say?
Yeah, I agree. I think I've put in my notes, that I thought they made it tough for us. They didn't just sort of come here and roll over and let us tickle the bellies, but they did it without really creating too much. So it wasn't. I don't know. I think when I say we maybe looked a bit nervy, it wasn't that we're going to lose this game. It was just we almost seemed like desperate to get the first goal. And yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was probably just me projecting, to be honest, at that point. But and we did get that.
I think as
goal.
well, like
sorry,
we did. And I was just going to say, I think as well, nearly any team coming to Sincil Bank is going to just not want to get beat, I think. And then you look back at, our past home games, and Northampton they absolutely came to Lincoln City just not wanting to get beat. And that didn't work because we absolutely hammered them. And Blackpool would have been exactly the same, try not to get beat. And it didn't work again, did it? Just the fact that we're able to come up against these teams who are setting up probably for a 0-0 for them would be a great result. They're setting up for that, and it is just not working. We are just able to not just nudge through it and sneak a 1-0 against a really resolute team that we've just managed to unlock. We have hammered them.
Yeah. We have, and it feels so bizarre, because if you were to look at those first couple of, the first 20 minutes or so, you just think, okay, it's going to be a bit of a contest. It wasn't, like I said, they weren't just going to roll over for us. But when we did get that first goal, you could almost feel the relief coming out of everybody. Like, everybody just thought, okay, we're back in the flow of it. We've got the goal, and we're probably going to be okay. So with the goal, I mean, Ivan puts the corner in, Sonny Bradley gets his head on it. It finds its way against the post, whether that's through Rob Street's intervention or the goalkeeper's intervention, comes back off the post. Conor McGrandles, I don't know if you've seen his post-match interview or heard his post-match interview with Radio Lincolnshire, but he had a touch of the Alex Mitchell interview from when Alex was talking to the Plymouth media the other week. Conor called it a screamer, which
yes, it did make me laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the line. I imagine that if you were to look at the XG for that, it would just say yes. It doesn't even need a number.
I have looked at the XG. I have looked at the XG for that. I've got it. It says yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It is 0.97.
Well, there we go. You see. And then again, it goes in the back of the net. Everyone just feels a bit of relief, and you think, we're back in the flow of it. Everything's good. And let's just see it out to half time. But there was something that happened in the run up to half time, which kind of became a bit of a theme of the second half. Jack Moylan went down under a pretty heavy challenge, and there was a move that was happening. Moylan goes down, and then I think Ben House gets fouled further up the pitch. The yellow card's given for the foul on House, but Bobby Madley doesn't pull it back and give the yellow card for the foul on Jack Moylan. We speculated after the game yesterday, has he just forgotten about that? Because it certainly felt like he'd maybe just forgotten. But yeah, it was a bit of a nasty challenge. But it was a clear yellow card to me. And it was the first moment of the afternoon where you kind of go, oh, okay, we've got a Premier League referee in, and he's not all that great. But we will talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the second half, shan't we?
Yes, yeah. I think he had a poor game, and I would expect better from a referee that's been worked. What's the word for that has refereed at Premier League? Officiated, that's it, at Premier League level. Because, we'll get on to the incidents. Some of them were just obvious, really obvious things that he got wrong. But just want to go back to the opening goal and talk about that a little bit more, if that's okay. I think, first and foremost, Conor McGrandles getting his first goal of the season, and the first goal in Christ knows how long. He's not known as a goal scorer, is he? I think he scored against Chesham. That might have been the last time.
First league goal since 2020, 2021, I believe.
Yeah. So given the season that he has had for us, and arguably at the moment, he's probably my player of the season. I think he has just been
100%.
absolutely outstanding. So to get a goal, it's just lovely for him. It's lovely for him to be there and just to nod that in basically on the line. I know we've had debates on this podcast before about whether somebody should score. They should score. I mean, he really should have scored.
He's got to score
from that position. Yeah. He got to score, and he did, which was great. And actually, I think in the kind of minutes leading up to that, it felt like we were going to score. There was just the period of sustained pressure, which was very similar to what we saw when we played Plymouth and when we scored against them. Just a real period of sustained pressure where you just think it's coming. The goal is coming, whether it's long throws into the box from Tom Hamer, corners, kind of recycling all those kind of set pieces to get them back in the box. Some free kicks in our own half that Wickens took and sent long as well. There was just a real, without, sounding like we're kind of, long ball Lincoln that crank an air raid siren every time the ball goes into the box. But it was a bit of a bombardment for a good few minutes. And I think we've seen it before. When that's happened, you just know that teams are going to crack under the pressure that we put them under. So yeah, there was that real period of pressure, and it paid off. We know that Blackpool are quite weak and vulnerable when it comes to defending set pieces as well. So by just piling on the pressure, set piece after set piece, long throw, free kick, it paid off, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we were all very, very happy, and like you say, breathed a sigh of relief that we were on the path that we all felt we ought to be on in winning, taking the lead in that game.
Absolutely. And with that goal from Conor McGrandles yesterday, I believe that meant that every player that had started yesterday, outfield player that is, every outfield player that had started the game yesterday has now got at least one goal this season for us, which kind of proves the point that, we've got goals from all over the pitch. Paul says in the chat, is that 17 different players scoring for the Imps this season? I did check earlier, it's 16. So we have 16 players that have scored for us this season. I think Rico Hackett's top on 8. I think this is just in the league. And then, all the way down to Tom Hamer, who's got his single solitary goal, but they all count. So, but I think going into half time, I just felt, okay, this is probably one, but I'd quite like a second, because again, it just always feels a little bit dangerous, doesn't it? If you've if you've gone 1-0 up, and then that Blackpool have got good players, because again, I don't want to just sit here and go, they were crap, we were brilliant, because I thought, at times, and we'll come on to the second half shortly, I think at times, the second half, they were probably the better side without creating too much. Again, but I just thought we probably got to get a second at some point. And then, we'll sort of go from there. I don't think we necessarily expected what was actually going to happen, though. But yeah, I mean, your thoughts at half time.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Going goal up and going into half time is a good place to be, but you always want to get a second goal just to make it more comfortable. And yeah, you're right. Blackpool were all right. They weren't crap. They were all right. And when we played Northampton, they were bad. They were bad. And they looked it and everything else, but Blackpool weren't. So, we needed to build on our lead, I think. But at the end of the first half, I know you were sort of saying you felt a bit nervy and it was quite even and everything else. But looking at the data and the stats from the end of that first half, we did have more possession than them in the first period. Our XG was 1.4. Theirs was only 0.08. So we had they had only 3 shots we had 7. We had 0 on target. We had 3 on target. So I think all that data kind of shows that first half was ours, really.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look back on it and go, yeah, I was confident that we were on top and it was all going to be fine in the first half. We were going to win the half, so to speak, when you've read the data at the end of the day. But I think, yeah, we were in control of that first half, really. Yeah, so I was happy going in at half time.
No, absolutely. It was again, it is looking back on it with that hindsight, and you think, oh, okay, the numbers suggest that we were, I was probably feeling a little bit. If I felt nervy, it was probably me, and I was just projecting that onto everything. But yeah, it was. Going in, I thought we could do with that second goal.
It's understandable at this point in the season.
Yeah, that's very true. So cool. Right. Well, what we're going to do then is take a very quick break. If you're listening, you'll get an advert as normal. If you are watching live, we will try and say hello, but at the moment we've got nearly 150 people watching live, which is phenomenal. And as a result, there are a ton of comments. So yeah, if you do want to watch live, I'll say it again, get on Sundays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. But we will see you the other side of this advert. Cool. Oh, dear. Let's see who we got in.
Oh, right, how you feeling, Paul, mate? You all right? You getting through it?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll be fine. Paul was in tonight first. Whoop first in. Steve Jollins, evening guys. How's the head after last night's excursions? Don't ask silly questions, Steve. Flossie is in. Very good evening, fellow imps. Podcast mum's in. Happy Sunday, you early birds. There we go. Andy's in. Says evening all, evening Floss. TFSG, he's in as well. So Street was excellent yesterday. Extra pace on closing down should be considered an assist for his goal. And what a selfless setup for Jeffries. Absolutely. Where else? Ollie is in. Ollie correctly predicted the scoreline yesterday in the Discord predictions. So he's kind of got himself 3 points in that one. David's in, says evening all, hope the heads recover. Only gone and cooked a roast dinner, not allowed the TV on. I'll be rumbled if they spot an AirPod, so I'll be watching later. Fair enough. That's fair enough. Gerard's in. We will probably answer that question a little bit later on. If you do have any questions, by the way, drop them in the chat because we'll try and answer them towards the end of the show. Dominique is in. And the wife is in, which is odd because she went for a nap at one point. I didn't see her come back out. Where are we? Wrestling Dad is in. I like that. Good morning. Yeah. Wrestling Dad.
Good morning. Lynn. Good morning. Where could that be?
I don't know. Let us know if it was a typo or if you are genuinely somewhere this morning. Podcast Auntie is in. I think we've got the full Parliament in tonight as well. It's,
full Parliament, yeah.
Ben is looking very tired and dopey. That's just my general demeanour. Like that's just me. Where are we? A lot of praise for Chris on the co-coms again yesterday. He did very well. We'll talk about that as well.
He does a very good job, doesn't he?
He does. Paul is in. We'll mention him a little bit as well. Yeah. Proud podcast family. Where are we? Cars says, good evening. I have to pinch myself that we could be in the championship next season. How far we've come since those grim National League days. Adam is in. Walter's in. Got some maths. Boss is in.
The boss is in.
Emily. Sam says morning from New Zealand. Wow, well done. That's not bad. That's probably the furthest away that we've got at the moment. And I did see. Where is Jacob? I always like to say hello to Jacob because where's he gone? He's here somewhere. There he is, Jacob, up the imps. And good evening, Ben and Emily. Fantastic win. It was buzzing with 617. Rob Street was man of the match. Absolutely no complaints there, mate, whatsoever. So, right. Okay. Let's go back into it.
I feel like I'm receiving your hangover from you. I'm now like
an electronically transmitted hangover.
I'm getting it through the screen. And I know I'm an empath, but this is too much.
Oh dear. Are we ready? Let's kick on and let's get into the second half. So in 3, 2, 1. And we're back. That was some sort of advert, and we've said hello to a bunch of people that are watching us live. This is the point where we give a little bit of a plug to say, get yourself involved on the Patreon. I think £3 a month, and it will get you access to the best Lincoln City community on the planet. That is our Discord chat. It's really good fun. We have a ton of good discussions in there, and they're just all really good people. So yeah, get on that. Right, so at the second half, again, I thought Blackpool probably made it really difficult, and I think they arguably probably the better side for about 20 minutes, even though they only really created 2 solid chances that I can remember, and they were basically back to back. I think there was Bowler had a shot that got blocked and went out for a corner, and then the resulting corner came across, and there was a header that Wickens had to save, and I think that was probably the only save that I can recall him making in the entire game.
I think he had did he have a fairly straightforward one in the first half?
And yes, then he did.
Fairly straightforward one a fairly straightforward long range effort at the end of the second half. But then, the one where he kind of came and sort of leapt into the kind of 6-yard area and punched it he leapt like a salmon and punched it away. It was probably the best, the best of the lot, really. But yeah, it was quite early on in the second half when Moylan had to go off after you said he got sandwiched in that tackle at the end of the first half and carried on for a few minutes. He obviously came back out for the second half and managed maybe 5 minutes before the trainer had to come on, give him a bit of treatment, and then he was replaced by Dom Jeffries, which I think Moylan going down and receiving treatment was not something any of us wanted to see. I mean, he is our star man really at the moment, isn't he? And, I think it's just compounded by losing Fred for a unknown amount of time. I think you fear the worst, don't you? And that's where I'm turning to my dad and I'm saying, this is where the season, this is where it all goes wrong, because we're all Lincoln City fans and we're all pessimists. But all reports are that it's a dead leg. So hopefully something he should recover from quite quickly. Have you ever had a dead leg?
Yes. It's weird.
I've never had
it.
It's
not nice. So it's not quite pins and needles.
I've heard people talk about it a lot, and I just don't. I have no idea what it actually is. I just hear people that they've got a dead leg.
It's not quite pins and needles. Yeah, it's not quite pins and needles, but you just can't do anything with your leg. It's like you can't move it properly. It's really weird. If you want to experience it just sit cross-legged on a chair with your top leg pressing down on your bottom leg, and after a while that leg will go to sleep, and then you can't actually do anything with that leg. And then shortly after that, pins and needles kicks in. But yeah, if it's that little bit of time where it's like you can't do anything, you can put weight on it, but you can't feel it. It's really bizarre. But it can be caused by a good old whack to the leg as well, which is obviously what happened to Jack yesterday.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I just heard people say it.
Yeah. Conor McGrandle's nearly getting a brace, which was bizarre. From
like buses, aren't they?
From not scoring in 5 years to nearly getting 2 in the same game. That forced a really good save. out of Peacock Farrell. To be fair, it was a decent header, and he'd be matched up to it with a good save. And then came two decisions that I still can't wrap my head around, Emily. I still can't wrap my head around.
Nope.
The first one, the ball comes across, and Tom Hamer gets shoved in the back in the penalty area, and Bobby Madley doesn't give a penalty.
Exactly. That is the right noise to make. It was Tom Hamer's gone up to jump for the header, and the defender has put two hands in the back and shoved him. And he's gone flying. If that isn't a foul, then I don't know what game I've been following my entire life. I don't know if that's not a foul. It's not shoulder to shoulder. It's not 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, 50-50. None of that. It's two hands in the back, shove. That's a penalty. Yeah. That's a penalty, in my opinion. And the referee has got it completely wrong. It's a penalty in real life. Like seeing it live in that moment, I could see it clear as day from where we were that it was two hands in the back, and it's a penalty on the replays as well. This is just the referees, and the officials, to coin a phrase that one of my old directors used to use, their hats fell off for a good few minutes in that second half. Their hats just fell off, and what the hell was going on? What were they doing?
It was bizarre because, I mean, you watch it back, the ball comes across, and initially, I mean, it is obviously a penalty, but trying to look at reasons why he hasn't given it, you think, oh, he's probably made a bit of a meal of it. But he's at the point where he's just jumping, so he's not got any weight on his feet.
He's in the air.
Yeah. And it's two hands in the back as you're jumping, you go over. It's not rocket science. Yeah. And you could see, if you watch the extended highlights, you can even see Michael Skubala when he's, he just goes, two hands. What? It's like, bloody hell, two hands. Come on. Yeah. It was just a baffling decision.
And with that as well, suggesting it's theatrical, how many times have you seen a penalty given where a defender is running in behind an attacker and the hand's gone on the back and the attacker's gone down, and anyone who's commentating on it or summarising it or whatever, reviewing the game, says things like, he feels the hand on his back and he goes down. But you can't do that. You can't put a hand on someone's back in the penalty area. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have, he went down a bit theatrically because he felt two hands in his back, and then on the other side say, well, you can't put a hand on someone's back in the penalty area because you're going to get a foul given against you. You can't have both. It was a stonewall penalty for me.
Absolutely. I do love this in the chat from Wrestling Dad, by the way. He says, if that ref had wished me a happy birthday, I'd have pulled out my birth certificate to check. Absolutely fair enough. And I think, if I'm right in thinking, actually, I think I know who that is. I think it's Dutch from Fight Factory, if it is. But yeah, it's all a good little independent wrestling show in Lincoln. It's always good fun. Anyway, that's getting a little bit off topic. But the next decision, which I couldn't quite get my head round, was Conor McGrandles goes to play the ball back, and Ashley Fletcher basically catches it and then runs, despite the protests of Tom Hamer, who's trying to, also defend the play. It gets to the edge of the box, plays it across to Neil Ennis, who then puts it wide. And I just think, if that goes in, we talk about sliding doors moments sometimes, don't you? You sort of say, oh, well, if there's, if this happened, then that. If that goes in, I think that the game well, obviously it doesn't end 4-0, but I think it probably changes a lot of the complexion of the game yesterday. But the fact is, he's essentially caught that ball right in front of the fourth official, right in front of all of the both dugouts. How is that not given?
No, I don't know. And with that one particularly, handball it's pretty black and white, isn't it? There's a whole, against someone's, are your arms and your hands in line with your body? Is it unnatural position or whatever? But when your arm is out of your body and it hits it, it's not really a debate, is it? You can't kind of go, well, no, it's handball. And there was one actually. Yeah, there was one in the first half on the other side of the pitch, like in front of where we sit. That was, it wasn't really in a dangerous area, didn't lead to anything, but it was another really blatant handball, and the ref didn't give that either. But this one in the second half obviously led to them having a good chance that could have changed the complexion of the game, as you said. I think that it did lead to a really good chance for Ennis, who came on at half time, and I thought his finish was really poor. I thought that was a really poor effort, just sort of pulled it so wide. It was never close to going in. So I thought that was really, really poor. It was two very bad decisions from the officials that thankfully had no, ramifications, didn't impact the game at all. So at least we can be thankful for that. But I think the ref thought he had an odd game, because there was long periods of the match where I thought, it's not about you, ref. One of those kind of refereeing displays where, every set piece nearly, it felt like he was pulling players out to have a word for pushing and shoving. It's like, just get on with it. And then missing these massive obvious decisions as well.
It was just bizarre. I mean, I thought to myself, like, and let's be fair, he was pretty poor for both sides, because I thought that there were at least two instances where the ball goes out, it's a blatant corner, and he's given a goal kick. It should have been a Blackpool corner, and he's given us a goal kick. That happened at least twice. And then you've got a missed penalty that is as stonewall as you're going to see, with two hands in the back. And then you've also got, an attacker catching the ball as part of his bloody move. It's just insane.
Yeah.
But just going back to that,
it feels weird.
So I just want to go back to the move with and Ennis's shot. Got to give credit to Adam Reach there for getting back, because he got back really quickly and did enough to put Ennis off. It was one of those moments where you look at it, you go, oh, if a slightly less experienced player maybe, is losing his head and going for the ref, or, gets back and maybe puts a silly challenge in or something along those lines. But Adam Reach did really, really well for that, to put him off and put that one wide. So, but I think they were that was kind of, it felt like they were mainly the end of Blackpool's chances. I don't really think they had much else in them after that. But we definitely did, because my notes just say, and then it got a bit silly.
Mine say goal, goal, goal. Just point in my notes.
Like the Alan Partridge thing, just go. So, let's talk about the third goal then. No, the second goal. Sorry, we're still 1-0 up at this point.
Yes.
So, so Horsfall goes to play a back pass, and he massively misjudges it. Rob Street gets on the end of it, gets to the edge of the box, jinks past Peacock Farrell, and then slots it into an open net. And the thing is, when you look at that in isolation of just the shot, it's an easy goal. But he's done so well to get into that position first and foremost, to put the pressure on Horsfall, then to get on the end of the back pass, then run into Peacock Farrell, then to ride the challenge, because he could have gone down and got a penalty. And if he goes down and gets a penalty, it's a red card, or although maybe not with that referee. But then, he jinks it past him, jumps over the top of him, looks up, sees where the goal is. Cool, all good, job's good. And at that point, it felt that's it. That's game over. That's game over.
Yeah. I've written that. Also written in my notes. I've put game over. At 2-0 up. I thought they. I didn't feel they had any way back. At that point. And I think. We were saying around us that we always feel like Peacock Farrell has a mistake in him. But actually, it was their defender that made the mistake. It was a really short back pass. But the pressure from Street was good. I think the goal just kept, like I said, he was my man of the match. I just think that really was just an excellent kind of addition to his all-round good game. And the composure is really important as well, because you've got to, it's one of them where you've got a long time to think about it. You've got a long time to think about those chances. You've got to get past the keeper, who's had a go, does make contact, and Street carries on. And then you've got to look up at the kind of big, gaping, open goal in front of you and make sure you bloody hit that target. So, I think the composure to put it away was excellent. And, I think the roof came off Sincilbank at that point because it just felt job done. Job done at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And that was the moment where you go, okay, now we can all definitely breathe. Everybody's fine. We are not losing this game. Blackpool don't have enough in them to do it. And the floodgates opened. And I think it felt a bit weird, because I don't think that was a 4-0 game yesterday. If we'd have lost that, if we'd have been on the receiving end of that, I'd be disappointed that we lost, but I'd probably be fuming that we'd lost that 4-0, because it didn't feel like a 4-0 game. We just really turned on the style in that last sort of 15-20 minutes. And then Dom Jeffries, who, he was obviously out for a long time. He's been slowly reintroduced back into the first team picture. Came on for Jack Moylan just after half time. And we all kind of thought, oh, this is going to be bad. Not because Dom Jeffries is coming on, but because Jack Moylan's going off. And he was absolutely superb yesterday when he came on. It was borderline one of those moments where, he's been on the field for 40 minutes. And I think we jokingly said in the fan zone afterwards, didn't we? Do we give man of the match to Dom Jeffries, because he's had a really good second half? But for Reach and Jeffries had a really, really nice little interchange, I guess. Reach wins the ball, plays it to Dom. Dom goes up, Street's on the reaches out on the overlap. Jeffries plays it back out to Reach, crosses it in, and Rob Street with the most unselfish layoff that I think I will ever see. And Emily's just been sneezing, for those of you that are listening. Tactical muting was very good there. Street with a really, really nice layoff. And let's be honest, that's not an easy strike at all from Dom Jeffries. He's really got to wrap his foot around it. But he does it, goes in the bottom corner, and everyone just went ballistic.
I was really pleased for Dom to score that goal, because I think his performance, particularly yesterday, absolutely deserved it. I agree with you. If it wasn't so kind of controversial to give somebody who's only played 40 minutes of football man of the match, I probably would have given it to Dom. But it was his first of the season as well, so a couple of firsts of the season yesterday, which was very nice to see. But yeah, he absolutely deserved it. And the chap who sits next to me said that's a proper goal. That was a proper goal. And when I've watched the replays of it back, it's a really nice little bit of play, really lovely layoff from Street, and then a lovely finish from Dom, who started the move and finished the move, which was nice. Obviously, as you mentioned, he did have his injuries and he had his hip operations kind of towards during the close season, and he's only just kind of coming back, really. And I don't think it's unfair to say that he has taken longer to get back to kind of full match fitness and standards and the levels that the squad is at. I don't think that's unfair at all to say that he's come on and made cameos in a few games after he was back to fitness, and I think he looked a bit off the pace. He was still settling in, and like I said, I don't think that's unfair. But what I have seen is the past maybe 3 substitute appearances from Dom. He has looked back to that level again. I think he's made some
100%.
really good cameos. He looked really good against Mansfield. Did he got the assist for Bayliss at Mansfield?
Yes,
did he?
Yeah, he got the assist for Bayliss's goal at Mansfield.
Yeah. I just think he looked great. So yeah, I think Dom is hopefully back to his best, back to the Dom Jeffries that we know from last season. And it's weird, isn't it? I think we spoke about this before on the podcast. Is he was one of the first most consistent names on the team sheet last year.
Yeah.
And he's been out for so long this season. You sort of forget that because we've been so good and he's been out. But yeah, now he's back and he's coming on making these cameo appearances at the level that he's at. I think we've got a really dangerous player, really dangerous player to come off the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. And it did make me chuckle when he came back, and I think he made his first sub appearance. And he had an interview after the game, and I just thought, oh yeah, he's really Welsh, isn't he? Like he's really Welsh.
Yes, yeah. I had that a bit with Conor McGrandles, his post match yesterday. I mean, we know he's Scottish, but he is proper. He's really Scottish. Like that kind of took. He doesn't do a lot. He doesn't do loads of the media, does he, Conor? So yeah, I heard his accent. I thought, whoa, he's been more of a broad Scotch than I remember.
Yeah. So then to wrap it up, Jeffries again, some lovely footwork, plays a beautiful ball through to Ryan One, who squeezes it in from almost an impossible angle. Now, I'm not taking anything away from that goal because it's really impressive, but I think the shot's off target and it just goes off the keeper and goes in. If you watch the replay from behind the goal back, I think he's maybe just put it a little bit wide, and it's knocked in by the keeper. But who cares? Cracking goal. Really happy for Ryan One. He is fast becoming this season's Brennan or Morgan. I think he's just been superb. And what I think I saw somewhere earlier, he's averaging a goal every 40 minutes based on the numbers, the amount of time that he's played so far. It's crazy. But yeah, 4-0. I think that maybe flattered us a little bit, but I think we were pretty rampant after that sliding doors moment, in terms of the last sort of 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, the goal from One, I think, he put it through the keeper's legs, didn't he? So if it clipped in, then that's probably what it was. Yeah. Did he shout Megs? We need to find this out. We need to get Stu. We need to start messaging the players and ask if they still shout Megs when it goes through players' legs. But I really like Ryan One. I think, you know what? He's got something about him. I know that's a sort of a really intangible thing to say, but he's sort of got this nonchalance in a good way, not in a kind of Tashan Oakley Booth way. He's got this nonchalance of just it looks easy. It just looks really easy, and he's just kind of, how many times, we've seen limited minutes of him really, but how often have we seen him kind of pick up the ball and like just a cute little back heel, like it's nothing, to the man on the overlap or whatever, and then his finish at Plymouth was just so stylish, and then the celebration is just kind of the shrug of the shoulders as if to say, and what? I just love it. I just love that. I'm not going to call it arrogance because I don't think it is. I think it's
confidence, isn't it?
He's just got that style. It's confidence, and it's that sort of style. Because he certainly puts the work in. And we've seen him put the work in. So it's not like he's lazy and kind of arrogant and I really, really like Ryan O'Neill. Can I talk about subs?
Go on,
I've got some more stats. I promised you more stats. Can I do a little bit about subs?
Go on.
So I was looking today at how many goals we've had from the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is also just an interesting point is that we've not really had to bring subs on to chase a game.
Yeah.
We've never had to bring on the like Alfie Lloyd and be like, you need to get us a goal. We've never been in that situation, which is a good place to be in, but it's interesting to kind of, we've not had that test yet. Well, that's not a bad thing, is it? But yeah, I was looking at how many goals we've got off the bench this season. And so far this season, we've scored 11 goals from the bench in the league, which is only 2 behind last season. And obviously we've got 12 games to go still. It's equal with the season before that. And then if you look at the 2022-2023 season, peak Mark Kennedy season, we didn't score any goals from the bench in the league that season at all, which I looked into the data for and then had to post it in our group chat to go, that sounds mental. Is that actually right?
Yeah.
And have to get somebody else to double check it for me, because that does sound absolutely mental. But I think it just goes to show really that, our subs bench is really strong. I think we've got such quality now coming off the bench that's really standing out. And I also think, is there a question of, or is there a point of we're using the subs better to get goals? Maybe just, there's so many different permutations, isn't it? The fact that the squad is better and they're not having to chase games with, with players coming off the bench. Is it just kind
I think
of,
that's,
if you
I think that's it for me.
Is a couple more?
Yeah, it feels to me like and again, we've said this before, we need to be bigger, we need to be better than the sum of our parts, but the parts are better, so therefore we are better than, being generally better. Yeah. The fact is that we've got really good players on the bench that I genuinely wouldn't mind if some of those players started rather than, some of the players that are in the starting 11. And I think having that depth, it allows you to have that flexibility and what you've just said there. And, are we using them better? I think we are using them better, but I think we're using better players in a better way. So yeah, I think that it's a really good observation. And that when you posted that, and we didn't score a single goal off the bench in that season, I just went, what is going on there? How is that a thing?
Yeah, Charlie replied and said something like there was I can't remember how long he said now, but a long period of that season where the latest we'd scored a goal was something like the 65th minute. Didn't score anything later than that, which again just sounds madness. And while we're on subs, just think a shout out for Alfie Lloyd coming on as well, because I thought he looked good. He puts in the work. He's fresh legs. He's chasing things down. He's putting on pressure, doing a really decent job of it. And that's all we needed from him. That's all we've needed from him. Like I say, we've not had to chase a game. So all we've needed from him is him to do that, and he's done that really well in all the kind of substitute appearances that he's made. Yep.
No, absolutely. Right. So that was the 4-0 victory over Blackpool. I like I say, I think 4-0 maybe flattered us a little tiny bit, but we were the better team by a long way. I think the numbers, including the mythical number that nobody quite fully understands, even though some people pretend to fully understand it, I think that suggested that it was probably 3 and a bit goals to 0.5. I think what's the actual one? XG 2.8 to 0.5. So yeah, 2-3-0 would have probably been a fairer result. But to be honest, I just wanted it to be 2-0 because that's what I said in the prediction league.
Yes. Do you know what? It's a strange one because I'm not really sure if I can articulate it very well, which isn't ideal for a podcast. But I think we just blew them away. I said this to you after the game. I went, we hammered them. We didn't just win. We hammered them, and 4-0. I don't think I can say it didn't feel like a 4-0 game to me personally, because we're good. Who was playing the drinking game? Drink now.
Are we good?
But we're good. And we turn up against these teams that have, weaknesses. They're not great. Like I say, Blackpool weren't a bad team, but they're not great. And we just are another level, in my opinion, to them.
Yeah.
And yesterday's game, and we said this when we met up afterwards, before we had a drink, so it wasn't the alcohol talking, everybody. I felt a bit emotional yesterday.
Yeah.
When I think when Dom Jeffries scored, because it just really kind of, I don't know, it just kind of consolidated something in my head that was, and I put this on social media earlier, every time you kind of have that, the run's got to come to an end at some moment, the team just gets better. And yeah, I just felt something, and I appreciate that's quite airy-fairy and a bit wishy-washy and really intangible, but it felt slightly different. Just really, it was really convincing. I think that's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think when Jeffrey scored, the lad in front of me, I think he sort of turned around and saw that my reaction was probably very similar. I just kind of went, I just stood there with my mouth open. I'm like, what is going on? And he just turned around to me and said, are you okay? I was like, no. And that was sort of like, that was the feeling of the day. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. But anyway, right, let's round up with a couple of questions. We've not got too many tonight, and we are also getting on for time. But Paul says, evening, guys.
Fire.
Yeah, quick fire question. So Paul says, good evening, guys. Who would have thought Cardiff v Lincoln could be a title decider? What a time to be an Imps fan. That's mad, isn't it? That's mad.
Yeah. I can't wait for it. Apart from waking up at stupid o'clock in the morning to get there, I cannot wait.
Yeah, well, thankfully we're stopping down with Rachel's folks, so we're getting the train relatively early, not silly early, but there we go. Gerard asks,
I was going to say I've got my own question, but I might no, we won't do. We'll do everyone else's questions. They're much more. You listening are much more important than mine. Question.
I have a question, says Gerard.
We'll get on another pod.
Yeah. If Skubala takes us up, is he the greatest Imps manager of all time? And then there's a second part of the question that I don't want to talk about because it will make me sad. So if we go up, is he the greatest Imps manager of all time? Emily.
In my lifetime, yes, I would say yes. I think so. I always find it difficult to kind of talk about things that I wasn't born for, because I can't pretend to know loads about all of our past managers that are kind of, held in such high regard. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in all of that. And also it's a different world now. Football's a completely different world. But you look at the success that the Cowleys had, and you could argue that, that's where the journey began. getting us out of the National League and moving on. But we all know they were quite well backed financially in the National League and then in League Two as well. I'm not going to bang on about the budget, but we all know about the budget this season. So not a very quick fire answer, was it? Sorry. Yes, in short, yes, I think he would be the greatest manager of my lifetime, certainly.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think the season that we won the National League, I don't know if it was fully expected that we would, but I think the season that we won League Two, I think it was probably expected that we would then. I can even remember Gary doing the article at the time where he basically said, I think we'll win the league, like early door, like before the season's even kicked off. And we did. And it was sort of expected, but I don't think anybody's expecting what's happening now. Couple of mentions in the comments, Graham Taylor, obviously, he has a record that will technically never be broken because it was when we were on 2 points per game, everything else. And then Bill Anderson took us to the second tier and kept us there for years, says Keith, fair point. And then, so it's, I think just in terms of the scale of what he's doing, I think he'd probably have to be in the conversation at the very least. And then we have
my dad will give me a history lesson on the way to Cardiff, which we can, I'm sure, my dad will give me a Lincoln City history lesson of all the managers before my time. We've got a long journey on Saturday.
It's going to be a long old journey for several people. And then we've got two very quick fire ones from the Discord. Says, if we go up, which away day are you immediately most excited for?
Ooh. Well, it all depends on what happens with the teams that are going to be in the Championship. I mean, depends on who comes down from the Premier League. I'm eyeing those up. I'm eyeing up Tottenham Hotspur. Are they going to fall in? Nottingham Forest would be a good one for me. Yeah. That would be a good game. And my other half, Chris, his eldest daughter, she keeps saying to me, if we go up, are we going to play Forest? Because all the kids in her school support Forest. And I'm like, maybe, maybe. So I think Forest if they came down. Yeah. I'm looking at who's coming down from the Prem, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Like you look at a big team that is coming down. I know Gary is keen on QPR because I think they're a team that we've maybe never played. I think Chris Norwich for the same sort of reason, or at least he haven't seen them play in sort of the modern era. I'm excited for any team that comes down from the Prem if it does happen. I'm just excited to have a bunch of new teams to play. Yeah.
Charlie said Burnley because he wants that full circle moment.
I agree with that, actually. I really do agree with that because there was a stat the other day. Tendai Darikwa was playing for Burnley against Lincoln City in the FA Cup as when we were a National League side knocking a Premier League side out of the FA Cup. And next season, he could be Lincoln City's captain playing Burnley in a league fixture, which that's a full circle thing, isn't it? And the last question is, what single word would you use to describe this team? That was from Keith, and he says relentless.
You go first if you've got one. I need to think.
I'm going to say ruthless because I think we have been. We've just been absolutely ruthless over the past, on this run. We just haven't given teams an inch at the moment, and it's been a delight to watch.
And I'm going to pick a very boring word, which I think is probably sort of a synonym of relentless, to be honest. And I was going to pick consistent.
Yeah.
And I know consistency sounds boring, but we've been consistently good. And I've talked today about the squad being consistent. I think the growth has been consistent. The path that we're on has been a really consistent sort of trajectory. And I think the performance that we're putting in, week out, have been consistently good. There haven't been any shockers. And, you know, and this was something I was going to, I had written in my notes, that when you look at the teams in and around us and you look at Cardiff, I think Cardiff and Bolton both won convincingly yesterday. We all added +4 to the goal difference, which is good. But Cardiff were beaten heavily by Plymouth a couple of weeks ago. Bolton have been drawing a few games recently, and we don't seem to be. I can't see us going away to somewhere and getting beat 5-2 or whatever the Cardiff result was at Plymouth.
No,
I cannot see that happening to us. And I don't want to be arrogant, but they're fallible. They seem fallible to me, and I don't feel like we are. Infallible. Maybe that's what I'll put my word. Infallible.
And as a tribute to the late great Rob Grant, you're the Lincoln are the closest thing that you can get to infallible. What you mean infallible? Exactly. There we go. Right. The final thing that we will say before we drop off is that if you are not currently a gold member for the club, you don't have a season ticket for next season, and you want to be, and you want to have a season ticket, get involved now. Basically, we've had word today that there are fewer than 200 new season tickets available. So that means that if you do want one after they've all sold out, you will have to go on a waiting list. And the waiting list, I believe, has I think the club posted something about it the other day, so you can get yourself signed up if it is needed. But yeah, get involved if you want to for next season, because new season tickets, there's fewer than 200 left. That's incredible.
Yeah, I might not bother next season. I'm joking, of course. Joking. Already renewed it.
Ah, dear. Right. Well, that is going to do us, because we are over time, but it has been fun. And there's only one thing left to say. We will see you on Wednesday. And of course, Emily, up the imps.
Up the imps.